Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of CO Pod. I'm your host, Caroline, and today I'm joined by Juanita Douglas. Juanita, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. I'm excited it's Friday.
Yes, I am also. Yeah, it's been a long week.
Yeah, I feel like always coming back after the holiday breaks is it's so hard.
Yes, and
Yeah.
for sure. And we took almost 2 weeks off. So
Oh,
yes,
wow. Yeah,
yeah,
that's definitely a long break. Much needed, but long.
yes.
Awesome. So, for anyone that doesn't know, Juanita was actually one of our keynote speakers at our CO Summit Santa Clara event back in November. So, Juanita, how was that experience for you being, a keynote speaker at this, a new event?
I really enjoyed it. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but I really enjoyed it. Very
Good.
comfortable being there.
Good. I'm glad you had a good time. I was all over the place running around like crazy, but I had a good time too. And then in your keynote was called The Beginning, and you focused a lot on the beginning of your career journey and how you got into the industry. So I would love if you could tell our audience here a little bit about that and, you know, kind of summarize what that time was like for you.
Okay, I'll just start. In 1984, I had a 7-year-old son, and my childcare for taking care of my son was more than my rent at that time. I was working for a company called Emporium Capwells, which is equivalent of Macy's now. And I was a department manager, so at that time it was decent money, but I still couldn't pay my childcare and my rent. So I started looking around for a better job. And I walked into the Petaluma, California unemployment office, and there was a flyer on the wall that said I could become a carpenter in the union, and it said I would earn $13.50 an hour.
Which at that time was
A lot of,
huge,
yeah,
huge.
yeah, it was a lot of
Yeah.
money because I think minimum wage was $3.90 or something
Wow.
like that. Yeah. And so I literally took the flyer off the wall, left the unemployment office, and went directly to the address on the flyer, which happened to be the Carpenters Hall in downtown Petaluma. And I told the guy at the desk, I want to do this. And he looked at me and he said, well, why? And I just pointed to the $13.50 an hour.
He said, "That's why."
Yeah, totally. I had no idea even what a carpenter did or anything.
Yeah.
And so what he did was at that time, they had what they call hunting papers.
Mhm.
So he put my name at the top, and at the bottom, I needed to go to the construction sites and get a superintendent and a foreman or a foreman to fill out these papers and bring them back to him, and then they could indenture me in the carpenters union is what his terms were.
Mhm.
So I said, okay, that sounds like it's easy.
Sounds like it.
Yes. And so I took the paper and I knew what construction sites look like. So I went to the first construction site, asked for the foreman. He came out and he looked at me. He says, I'm not hiring. I don't hire any women. It wasn't that nice though. So I'm not sure I could say those words that he basically told me. And being who I am and having the mother that raised us, there was 8 of us in a 2-bedroom house and 1 bathroom, along with my mother and father.
Wow.
There was no such thing. Her whole mantra was, there's no such thing as no. That word doesn't exist.
Mm-mm.
So it was something wrong with him and not me. So I just went to the next construction site. And I did that off and on for about 2 weeks and still got the same answer.
Mhm.
So I went back to the hall, and by then I knew his first name was Lou. And I said, Lou, you didn't tell me that they were going to curse me out and tell me to get the hell off of their site and they're not hiring any women. I said, so you're telling me, there's no women in construction? And he said, you're still here. I said, yes, $13.50 an hour. So he opened a drawer in his lower drawer in his desk and he handed me a sheet with about 6 addresses on it. And he said, here, go to these. These are federally funded sites. They have to hire you. And so I asked him, well, why did you make me do that other stuff? Exactly. And he basically said, well, I wanted to see if you were really serious. So there was literally 1 block from where I lived, a General Mail facility was getting ready to start. They had just broke ground. And I drove to there, and there was a guy there. His first name was Jay. It was Roboland Construction out of Sacramento. And he talked to me. He didn't talk to me crazy, but he just talked to me. And so every few days I would go and I would take him lunch. And that went on. I don't remember if it went on for a week or 2 weeks, but it went on for just a bit. And he finally looked at me, and I had the paper every day in my hand. He said, give it to me. You're not leaving. Nope, not leaving. And so he hired me. And that day he hired me, me and his superintendent was the last one leaving that job. It was 18 months long. And I was the last person with the superintendent to leave that job. I worked 30 years and drew unemployment only when I wanted to.
Wow. That's incredible. And I think that shows, a lot to your drive and your persistence, and especially with, when we were talking last time, you were telling me you were retired and
Uh,
then you ended up just getting a new position in December.
yes, I retired officially May 2014 because I worked 30 years as the carpenter, as the commercial carpenter. And then in the field, I worked another 15 years. I'm sorry, let me back up. 15 years as a commercial carpenter and another 15 years in the field as a land surveyor. So officially, as of August 31st, 2024, I have 25 years in as a land surveyor. So I have 40 years in the trades. But I got bored almost immediately. So got an offer to help with um, some hands-on training. They were getting ready to build the Chase Center in San Francisco. And a friend of mine that I had worked with called and said they had got this huge grant and they needed someone to help train some students to work at the Chase Center because the Warriors promised they would local hire San Francisco residents, but they couldn't find any. And this was in 2000, let me see, 2014. So this was 2016. So I've been retired 2 years. And by now I was just bored stupid. I had nothing to do.
There's not enough board games and wine to
No,
drink to be
no,
able to keep
no.
yourself entertained.
Yeah, no. I was just totally, totally bored. And so me and Ralph and quite a few other people. So me and Ralph work with all the soft skills on training these young people in the city of San Francisco, what it took to work on a construction site. And if the first class I think was 54 students. I can't remember the exact number, but I know we graduated 40 something. And most of those students and participants got hired on the Chase Center. We did it 3 more times. And the Chase Center, who was Clark and Mortensen, who was a joint venture, hired most of those students. And quite a few of them ended up working till the very end. Yeah, and we did that through it's a hands-on pre-apprentice training program. And we did that through City Build in San Francisco. In the Bay Area, there's 4 others that does that work. And so now I'm done with that, and it's like, well, now it's in my blood to see and give the opportunity to the underrepresented people to get into the construction trade because I know how much money can be made. I know how it changes your life. And now, especially females, I understand how much it changes everyone's life. So in 2018, because the Chase Center had just, that position had just ended, I had the opportunity to go and teach a summer cohort for a company called Rising Sun Center for Opportunity. I was going to teach that one 12-week program up until November 29th, 2024. I was still there. So basically that with Rising Sun, we graduated over 289 women. Out of those 289 women, and this is just the females, and the reason I'm doing this, it will explain my next statement. um, 11% of those women are still working today from 2018 to now. Well, in November, I had the opportunity and was offered the opportunity to become the ED for Tradeswomen Incorporated, which is an organization of trade that tradeswomen created in 1979 that helps females get into the construction trades. And it's a mentoring program. We work with females almost exclusively, but the idea is to help understand the opportunities that's in the trades specifically for women. I'm going to back up just a little bit, but at Rising Sun, I did 6.5 years there. And we were able in those 6.5 years as started working with the union reps of the 28 union trades in the state of California, with the general contractors, going to places and meeting and interacting and creating partnerships. When I left, we had a 98% placement the first 3 months of every graduation for the last 2 years that we did. And all of it was not in the union trades, but it was in trades, our jobs that made these underrepresented people, youth, reentry, be able to change their lives.
That's incredible. I mean, that is such a high number. I don't think I've heard a number like 98% in a while. That is incredible.
And we work with, and the biggest part was doing the retention. So we're
Mhm.
learning now how to stay in contact, because what happens is if you get an underrepresented, I mean, I had young people come in that had never ever had a job. They're 27, 28 years old.
Mhm.
Now they walk off out of our class, they walk into one of the training programs. They're making $30.25 an hour day one.
Well, that
And
sounds
four,
great.
hello, in 4 years, they're making $75 an hour.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm calling going, hey, I need your check stub. It's
Mhm.
like, whatever, Miss Juanita, you know? So we had to learn how to figure out how to keep the retention up to show that we were actually doing this work, to
Yeah.
keep the funding up. But there's 4 programs and it's ongoing and it's really, really working.
Yeah.
And there really is a shortage.
There really is, and I know we always throw that around all the time. We talk about it all the time, but, seeing it firsthand is like, "Oh, shoot, this really is something that's going on in our
Yeah,
industry right now."
it really, yes.
It's more
And
than just talk.
yes.
Mhm.
And what we've got to do is change the culture, and it's
Mhm.
changing. I
Yeah.
mean, just speaking, we're doing the keynote. One
Mhm.
of your contractors actually hired one of my students, and
Oh,
she
really?
started to work on Monday.
That's amazing. This I
Yes.
love all these connections.
And that's the way it works. So with
Mhm.
this new position, I'm hoping I can influence a lot more of that, and we can do a lot more of what happened.
Yeah. And we're seeing, the industry and, the world being a little bit more accepting of women and, you know, all of these other, groups of people that were once not considered for the construction industry. If you weren't a white male,
Right,
they wouldn't look your way.
right.
What is one of those things, or I know there's probably a million different reasons for this, but why are we now becoming more accepting? Why was it that way back then?
I think it was just ignorance. I mean, I really, really do. And I think that the more that we present and the more that we expose, the exposure is not there, because changing and passing the laws really helps, but the exposure is still not there. You pass a law and it's just something on the piece of paper, or you pass a policy and it's just something. But if you can build up relationships and partnerships, and you can get the contractors and the union reps in the room with the actual bodies, then it works. I know it works because it's worked for me. Works when we do our networking events and we invite them in to meet the actual bodies. And the training works, it prepares them for what they're walking into. And that way, the retention rate will go up.
Yeah. And I feel like especially, when you're just starting out in this career and, especially being a woman in the industry or, no, anything, it's hard to get in front of people.
Yes,
Even these days, everything is online. You apply online, you do all
yes,
of this. And I remember thinking back to when I first started, I was like, just get me in front of a person.
yes.
I will rock it if you get me in front of a person, a real human.
And I'm finding that that really works. If you give them the opportunity to sit down in front of that person and sell themselves. And that has went away, or it never was available enough. Because when I went out, I had to go job site to job site to job site. But if you get a room with 15, 20 union reps and contractors and 15 or 20 people, and set it up where they can sit down and interact and talk with each other, then magic happens. It really happens.
You have no choice other than to listen when you have someone in front of you.
Right,
If they're not in front of you, it's easy to look over it. It's easy to ignore. It's easy to go with what's comfortable. And
right.
what's
And
comfortable is what needs to be changed.
exactly.
Yeah.
And they can tell you, or you can tell them, and you guys can interact and understand each other and understand why.
Yes, the why, the why. Yes, the why. Why do you want to be here? Why are you doing this? Understanding that there is a human behind that position is
Right.
so important.
And the a lot of it is that the funding's not available to do all the basic training or do all the material, but the sit down and talk part doesn't cost as much. You
No, I
can
can
have
tell you it doesn't.
something for refreshments, something for the mileage that are working.
Mhm,
You already have all the organizations. Help create the resumes
mhm.
and be available to sit down and talk. The funding is getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So we've got to find another way to make this work. And
Yeah,
I really believe that's the way to do it.
yeah, yeah, and, thinking back to those early days when you were on the job site, what was that environment like? Because 'Cause I'm sure it probably wasn't the most enjoyable experience. Thinking back on the difficult days, how did you get through that and keep going and keep staying in an industry that at the time didn't fully accept you?
I talk to myself a lot because I'm very outspoken person and always have been. So I would have to talk to myself to figure out how I was going to speak up and not get stupid and not lose my job. But the number one priority and the advantage of construction is that you can speak up. And being female, women doesn't understand that. So if there was right. So if there was something going on that I just literally did not like, I didn't wait. I spoke up immediately. If someone said something, no, first thing was number one rule with me was on the job site, do not touch or put your hands on me unless I've told you it's okay. I can deal with all the words, but don't touch me.
No. It's the
Like,
boundaries, you
that's
know?
right. And my boundaries on not touching me is the hand might not be there when it comes back.
You
I
might
know
have
that's
2 less
crazy, but
fingers.
that's my boundary.
I mean, it makes sense. That is your it's almost like your physical bubble, and when that gets encroached on, it's a very intrusive feeling. I've
Yes.
felt that way as well. I know what that it's
Yeah.
ugh.
And everybody on the job site literally believed their hands wouldn't be there if they touched. That was one thing that was immediately understood. And I had heard horror stories where the women were being touched. And it was like, that will not happen to me on any job site. I guarantee you that. The rest of it, if something was said that I did not like, I immediately stopped it. And what I try to do, especially with women, but also men, there are certain rites of passage, unfortunately. And I don't know what the other term is, that you're going to have to deal with. You don't have to accept it, but you're going to have to deal with it. You just need to know when to speak up and stop it. And you cannot wait. And there are certain times when words and harassment needs to be reported. But 98% of the time, you as that person can stop it because unfortunately they don't realize that they're harassing you. They have no idea. And if you say, yeah, hey John, chill, I don't like that.
Chill, John.
Yeah.
Hands off, chill. I mean,
And 99.9% of the time, John is going to chill. But
you'd
you
hope.
have to do it immediately because if you keep letting John do that, he thinks it's okay.
Yeah. Mhm. Sorry, I've got my eye totally
So
watering
then,
here.
yeah,
I
yeah.
swear I'm not crying.
I hope not.
I did cry last night when I watched, Mufasa, the new Lion King
Oh,
movie.
yeah, the new one, yeah.
Oh, I was a hot mess during that, but I
Yes,
swear I'm not crying right now.
okay.
Um,
But, yeah, that is the way I manage. I just
yeah,
spoke up immediately.
yeah, I feel like, for a lot of people, women in particular, I'm thinking about myself here, speaking up is hard sometimes, you don't wanna be viewed a certain way or something. So, what advice do you have for those people who are maybe having a little bit more of a difficult time speaking up or gaining that confidence to speak up?
They have got to. They
Mhm.
go in the bathroom and practice on
Yeah,
they have got to speak up.
yeah. Even
And
just
so
practicing in the mirror to yourself.
right, and what we did at Rising Sun and
Mhm.
City Build, we practiced scenarios.
Yeah.
When we did the classes, we would have the guys and the girls practice
Mhm.
and just literally, hey, look,
Yeah.
I don't appreciate that statement you just said. I don't like it.
Mhm. Yeah.
And they back up. Now, if that doesn't go away, then you go to that person's supervisor. Now,
Yeah.
if it's the supervisor doing it, then
Oof.
you go to your union rep.
Yeah. Thank goodness for those union reps.
Right. And back in the day, the union reps, sometime you would get ignored. Not anymore.
Mhm.
Not at all. I don't think there's a union rep on the face of the earth now that will ignore you.
Yeah. Thank
but take
goodness.
right, but take care of it as much as you can yourself first because they expect you to. What
Mhm.
I did was just sit back and watch how they interact with each other,
Mhm.
the way they trash talked each other. And 90% of the time, that's all it is.
Yeah.
So you
Sometimes it
need,
feels like more though,
yeah,
you know?
yes, because you're a stranger,
Mhm.
you're new at this, you have no idea what they're talking about, so you're taking it personal. And the first thing you got to learn is nothing on that job site is personal.
No, and that maybe stems from, personal insecurities as well, thinking, "Am I imposter syndrome almost? Am I really meant to be
Yes,
here? Am I supposed to be here? I don't
right,
I don't look like all these people around me. What am I
right.
doing?"
And I still have to talk to myself with the imposter syndrome.
I do
And
too.
especially when I accepted this new position, it's like I don't even know the definition of what an AD is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Am I qualified to do this position?
yeah.
So that, and especially with females, we're more
Mhm.
prone to that.
How do you deal with those thoughts of imposter syndrome? Because I know that's something I struggle with too. I'm sure we have a lot of viewers out there that also struggle with that.
I when I'm in a position where I can't do anything about it and I'm freaking out and I'm having panic attacks and I'm
Mhm.
right in the middle of a meeting, I've learned to just shut it off
Yeah.
and pretend I know what I'm doing until I get in my truck.
Fake it till you make it. Fake
Yeah.
it till you
And
make it.
then I have to talk to myself.
Mhm.
And my favorite person that keeps me going is Maya Angelou. Now
Yeah.
I rise.
Yes, yes.
So she keeps me centered
Mhm.
because I know my worth.
Mhm.
I know what I've accomplished. I know 40 years in the construction trade being a black female,
Mhm.
there's not a lot of us out there.
Yeah, no.
I know what I know, and I have to keep convincing Juanita that Juanita knows what she knows.
Yeah,
And what I've accomplished, I can give and offer to other people.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's one of the most beautiful things in life is when you go through all of these experiences and all of this, your whole career, and you can finally give that knowledge and pass that knowledge on so that the next generation might not have to go through those things that you went through.
Right, right, and
So,
make it just a little bit easier. I can reach down and show them how to walk around that wall, how
mhm,
to remove those barriers, how to remove those roadblocks that's there in front of them, and they don't have to deal with it. And like
yeah,
I said, I did not have a lot of issues on the job site because I was very outspoken. And
mhm,
I have the young women and the young men calling, going, look, this is happening out here. What should I do?
mhm.
Speak up.
Speak up.
That's all it takes.
Yeah,
Hey, look, I don't like that. That's
yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
I'm not your girlfriend. I'm not your wife. I'm not your mother. You understand?
Not even your friend half the
That's right.
time.
I don't even like you.
Yeah, I just work with you.
Yeah. You have to speak up. And they get it. And what happened with me more than anything is they became my big advocate. I didn't have to speak up no more.
Yeah,
The guys I was working with started speaking up for me.
that's
When
amazing.
you change job sites, they are going to not allow anyone to mess with you.
Yeah, and, speaking up, they probably especially at that time, not a lot of women were speaking up like that,
Right.
and they were probably just like, "Damn, who is this
Yeah,
girl? She's
because
badass."
yeah, and they will, but you have to do your job.
Yeah, yeah.
You cannot expect them to do your job.
Mhm.
And you have to stop them from doing your job.
Oh, God, the
Stop them from
mansplaining.
helping you also. Yeah, and the mansplaining is just unbelievable.
I can't. It's my
Yeah.
pet peeve. I can't.
And
Sometimes, ugh,
yeah, it's like, no, 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 no.
you're like, I know that. I knew that way back when. Thank you very
Right,
much.
right. But
Yeah.
they realize that you're not gonna expect them to help you,
Mhm.
or they think that they're supposed to help you,
Hmm.
and you have to literally have them back up. I got this.
Yeah, I'm
But you
capable.
right, but you also have to learn how to ask for help when you need it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, when you need
Um,
help.
kind of reflecting back on your entire career, what are some of the achievements that you're most proud of? That's a
Uh,
loaded question.
wow.
Totally loaded, I know.
My most thing that I really, really like to brag about is that I did 98% of all the infrastructure in Mission Bay in San Francisco.
Yes, girl.
Third
Yes.
Street Light Rail, AT&T Park, which is I'm not sure what the Giant Stadium is now.
Oracle
Uh,
Park, I think. I still
okay,
call it
yeah,
AT&T, so
the Chase Center, Transbay Terminal, Salesforce, Four Seasons Hotel, St. Regency Hotel. In LA, I did the LAX Control Tower, the the Anaheim Pond, the Ducks. I did the Northridge Mall. I did the filtration plant in San Fernando Valley,
Mhm.
Selmar. Those are the big jobs.
Wow. Those are
And
big.
yeah, so I mean, literally, I was the surveyor on 98% of all the infrastructure in Mission Bay.
Yeah, and none of that would have happened if you didn't speak up.
That's right.
So
And
once
yeah,
again, going back to
exactly.
that importance of advocating for yourself as, not just a woman, but as a human,
Yes, yes,
advocating for what you deserve, um, how you wanna be treated.
right. And
So
believing you could do it.
mhm,
When the contractor came to me, Mitchell Engineering, for the Third Street light rail, he knew I had switched over from carpentry to surveying.
yeah.
And he says, I want you to become, I've only been doing this for years. I'm new and I'm not sure I know how to. He says, I don't care. You're going to sink or swim.
Get your floaties on, we're sinking or
I'm
swimming.
going, but this is $1 billion. He says, I don't care. You're going to sink or swim.
Mhm,
And I jumped off of that cliff. And I have a tendency to jump off the cliff and
me
know
too.
somewhere down there before I get past the point of no return, someone's going to hand me a parachute.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's all about teamwork, coming into
Yes,
this, I was like, "I don't know how I'm gonna do any of this, I don't know what I'm doing," and then, the outpouring of support when you surround yourself with those people,
right,
it's just overwhelming almost.
right,
It's
right.
amazing. Awesome.
Yeah. So,
So for any of our viewers that, wanna get in contact with you, wanna learn more about, Tradeswomen Incorporated, Rising Sun Center, any of that, how can we reach out to you? How can we get to those wonderful organizations?
okay. So if you need to get in touch with me, my email is jdouglas
Mhm.
at tradeswomen.org,
Okay.
O-R-G. And that will get you directly to me. And I can, with an email, get you to any one of those training facilities that I named.
Yeah, I think that would be really, really helpful for a lot of our audience, and I'll definitely make sure to link everything below for everyone, so that we can all start speaking up and really making this industry better.
Yeah, and I really really believe now is the time to give unrepresented
Yeah.
youth and adults the ability. And now in my new role, I'm going to do everything I can to get more women in because they keep saying 6, 7, 8, 9, but that's not true. There's
Mhm.
only at the most 2% in the field.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot going on behind the scenes, but
Right.
what about the people that are actually out there, actually doing the boots on the ground, building hard work?
And that's what we need. I
Mhm,
spent 30 years in the field.
mhm.
I worked a couple of jobs as general foremans and foremans, but all of my time was spent in the field.
Yeah.
And that's what we need, because there are opportunities once you get past that their first 4 years
Mhm.
to go into the upper management part. But we need especially women in the field.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do. And can't wait to see the change in the upcoming years and see where our industry is heading with this because it's really exciting. We're finally starting to see that these changes that we always talk about, we're finally starting to see them in reality.
Yeah.
That's very, very exciting. And I'm just so honored to have you here on this podcast talking about all of this. And as one of our previous keynote speakers, I really just wanted to thank you for sharing your experiences and sharing your journey.
Okay.
So,
Thank you for having me. I
yeah,
really enjoyed this. Thank you.
yeah. Yes, I can't wait to see you around town hopefully soon. We're both in the same area, so I'm
Yeah.
sure we'll be attending some events together. But yes.
Yeah. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you guys all so much for listening today. This has been another episode of CO Pod. We will see you all next time.